Welcome back, everybody, where it's Monday, and if you didn't read your email this weekend, there's a good chance a hacker might have, if it was an Outlook.com.
I don't think there's that good of a chance.
Well, yeah,
It seems like it was a
yeah,
small number.
well, we don't, fortunately, they didn't quantify what small is.
Yeah, I saw someone had quoted some kind of a 6% figure, which is actually a high number, but I can't imagine it was 6%.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from anyone who got this letter from Microsoft explaining that someone may have compromised their account, but apparently they sent those out.
Apparently, too, they were ending up in junk mail, which makes it even better.
Ironic.
So if you're not familiar with what Paul and I are not directly talking about, it was Microsoft pulled the classic move late on a Friday evening. They notified people of their email services. Granted, non-corporate. This is only consumers. Somebody apparently somehow compromised a CSR, customer service representative email or system access or whatever you want to call it. And then they could go kind of frolicking around and reading people's emails and accessing their accounts if they wanted to. And so Microsoft notified the people whose accounts were accessed. And it's probably just a good idea to change your password anyways. They have shut down that whatever. It's a vulnerability, but it was socially engineered out of this person somehow.
Right.
And,
Right. Yeah. Look, the Chinese are going to have access to all our data soon anyway. Just,
I think
just
soon
run
might
with
even
it.
be a little late. I think it was probably yesterday, or maybe the Russians have it, or somebody does.
Yeah.
But
Russians, North Koreans, whatever.
the moral of the story is, if you have sensitive data, don't keep it in your inbox, I guess.
Right. Good luck with that.
Yeah. I guess that kind of raises the question: what's more secure, your inbox or OneDrive?
If you can get access to a customer service rep, they're just as vulnerable, I would say.
Yeah, I would think so too. What? Did they say OneDrive was accessed? I thought it was just email, but
It's just email, from what I understand.
yeah, I think OneDrive would be a much more lucrative place to go frolicking, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's
For sure.
that was the
I won't
Friday
be able to
night news
explain
dump.
this anymore from sort of a networking perspective, but back in 1995, Phoenix was one of the first places nationally to get like cable modem access. So naturally, I got it on day one, and like that Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning. And you're gonna think I'm kidding, but guys in those bunny suits they wear like in chip fabrication places. There were guys dressed like that. They were running around the house. They were running around outside. They were running down the street checking things, and we got cable modem access. So, but the thing, like for the first several months, we were all on the same like network. All of the people
Wow.
had cable modem, so I could go into my network neighborhood, I think it was called, and I could see all the other computers.
Yep.
And I could browse through every single one of the shares and see what was there. And I found all kinds of stuff. I found pornography. I found pirated software. Photos of every kind. I mean, it was unbelievable. We used to, in fact, my friend and I, as a joke, used to print to each other's printer, right? Because it was on the network. And I would, we would print horrible pornographic images to each other at inopportune times because it was fun and we were young.
Not quite to that same level. It was more of a feature, I guess, at that point. But in my college dormitory, it was the same way, because you would just plug in, you would connect to the network. Now they did get eventually more robust controls, but it was the same way. You could go exploring for printers, and you could find a whole bunch of them.
I think the deal was that Windows 95 had finally come with a lot of the networking software that previously was in NT, obviously, but it was in like Windows for Workgroups. It was very uncommon. So I don't think it occurred to anyone at, I think it was Cox Cable that did this, that they were giving this kind of access to people. Like, I don't think they understood what they were doing.
Yeah.
But, we understood.
A few people got to die on those hills, to make progress in security.
That's right.
Much like the people whose Outlook accounts got compromised died on that hill to get some.
Yeah. Hopefully all they got was a recipe for brownies or something,
Or maybe some shampoo advice. We don't know. We just
That's right.
just don't know. Things we do know about, though, is I wrote up this morning. Microsoft is going to take on AirPods and whatever Amazon's going to call their pod things. Maybe they're just going to call them Amazon balls. Isn't that what the bio balls they have?
Amazon balls. Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully they look like giant, like clown noses on the side of your head.
with a little beeping red light.
Mm-hmm.
That would be great. That would be great. But anyways, Microsoft is working on a pair of earbuds for the Surface brand. That really shouldn't come as a big surprise. They announced headphones last year, and what would complement headphones pretty well? Well, earbuds. And
I think these things make more sense than headphones, frankly.
I do too.
As soon as I don't, they never released the announcement where they made these, where they announced this product.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to go back and watch the video because I distinctly remember Panos Panay describing the situation in which an office worker in today's open, plan offices would need such a thing. And I was like, I don't think that's what they need. I know people do wear those kind of things, but wearing those on flights just for that couple of hours or whatever, I find them to be very heavy and they make my ears sweat. And, I very much prefer the in-ear type of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think this is more in line with what people are looking for, frankly. Yeah.
What's interesting too is one of these Surface, he's no longer at the company because there's no longer a list. His name was Brian. He left Surface to go work on a startup.
Oh, Brian Hall.
Brian Hall, that's it. Could not remember his last name, Brian. Mm-hmm. And they went and worked on an earbud style startup. He's actually now at Amazon. But what would be interesting too is I would love for the feature on these things to have essentially what they call voice pass through, right? So you could have them in, you hit a button or whatever, and then you can hear the outside world coming in through. And that's kind of the startup he was at. And I would love to see that functionality here because to your point, the thing is when these things are in, you don't want to hear the outside world, which is great for an office world. But at some point, you have to be able to hear.
Yeah, someone walks up to you and they say something, you want to go boop, and you hear the guy. Yeah, that makes tons of sense.
Just patch them through, if you will.
Yep. Right. It's sort of like an AR headset, but for ears.
Yes, these might pair well with something like that, you might even say.
Interesting. Interesting word, pair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Keep in mind, folks, this is a mock-up. This is a concept, actually. A phone designer on Twitter, I've known him for a while, created these. Mm-hmm. Not representative of what they look like, but I think that would be pretty cool if they did look like this.
Yeah, I think the colors are right for sure.
Yeah, he did a great job with that mock-up. So we will see. I don't know a shipping date. They are codenamed Morrison, which I believe is probably after Jim Morrison, I would think, of The Doors. Would be...
Avoid bathtubs in Paris while you were in these things.
Also true. Also true. But the original headphones were codenamed Joplin, and then there was an American folk writer. What was his name? His last name was Joplin. He made a bunch of rag tunes, and so these kind of fall into that musician type codename.
You don't think it was Janis Joplin?
Oh, it could have been.
Also a '60s, I guess we'll call her a rock star. I don't know what else to call Janis Joplin, but also died young. Interestingly, like a lot of Microsoft products. Am I right? Too soon. Okay, sorry.
Maybe. What was the other guy's name? I was thinking of Scott Joplin, but that Janis Joplin might have made more sense now that you say it.
Either one is probably fine.
But they're both music related. That's kind of the appears to be the theme, if you will.
Right.
So
Joplin sounds like the name of like a compiler or something, or like a JavaScript engine. Mm-hmm. It's got that kind of weird name.
Interestingly enough, I had heard that there was a black version of the Surface headphones at some point. I don't know if those are still happening or not or whatever, but it would make sense, right? They've got the silver pair. They put out the black pair at some point.
Honestly, white and black make more sense than this silver thing, other than that's kind of the Surface color. But
yeah, silver and black.
My God, it's like the bland Corolla of cars. It's like, can I have Corolla gray, please? I want to make sure no one ever sees this.
I'm still hoping they come out with a Surface in 1998 PC box beige.
Nice.
That would be
right. Something that will yellow over time.
Yes, those would be
right. Just don't put it in the sun. I guess they've solved that problem, by the way. Like that, all the old computers used to get yellow. I guess they figured out how to.
Yeah, they learned about UV light.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, there's light in the sky.
All they do is they pull it out and they spray SPF 80 on it, and then they ship it out to you. That's why it's sticky.
Right. That's the Atari way.
And then you've been writing up a bunch of stuff about the new Edge, the new Coke.
I'm kind of obsessed about this all of a sudden, and it's weird because, back when they announced they were doing this, I thought, obviously it was a big deal. I mean, I wrote that it was a big deal. It's historic in many ways, right? And you still, it's funny because people reading this stuff, you'll see it in the comments, you see it on Twitter. People are still very upset about this, like that Microsoft has somehow given Google a monopoly, whereas
Hmm.
I believe, and Microsoft has said this explicitly, that what they're doing is innovating where it makes sense to innovate and standardizing where it makes sense to standardize, and it's kind of the right thing to do for all of the audiences that are involved, whether it's the people using the browser, developers, whatever. Um, and so, whatever. But, now that I've been using it for a couple of weeks, and then I would say, I guess, for 1 week for the Insider Preview version, um, it is it's kind of come together for me. Like I've used so many different web browsers. Web browsers are one of those things. They're like Android launchers and some other
Hmm.
software where every time a new version of something comes out, I just try it. And I always end up going back to the thing that I always use. And in the case of browsers, of course, I'm talking about Chrome. And so there's great stuff in Firefox for sure. There's great stuff in Opera. Brave is interesting to me because of the Chromium angle. And then Microsoft comes along with this Chromium-based version of Edge, and immediately it's fine for me. And that
Yeah.
has never happened. I
Right.
mean,
Same.
the conversation we keep having about this stuff, you try something else, and there's little things. It's like a little thing, and a little thing, and a little thing. And eventually the little things add up, and you're like, I just want to go back to the thing that's familiar, that works great, and whatever. And that has not happened with this. And I think the profound thing that finally occurred to me was that basically, aside from the obvious, right? This is Google Chrome with all of the Google nastiness torn out of it. There's no tracking. You're not going to get that advertising craziness where you randomly, search for some stupid thing,
Hmm.
and then 2 days later you're on Facebook or Amazon.com and it's getting advertised to you or whatever. So that's gone, and that's great. But the other half of the coin, if you will, the other side, is that you're also doing all of your syncing and your account management through Microsoft now,
Yep.
right? And honestly, the way the world has progressed, there are only two major tech firms I think that anyone can trust. Apple on the hardware side, mostly, and system software, I should say, and then Microsoft. And these two companies are really pushing the privacy angle. And it is a really big deal that I can do I and everyone else can do everything that I do today in Chrome without any limitations, but do it using an account that is secure, safe, and privacy protected. It's a big deal. And I think the thing that occurred to
Hmm.
me over the weekend was just that, like, yeah, I'm not going to put my wife on this thing today. I'm not going to ask my mother to use it today, my brother. But I think even people who like the Google stuff inherently understand in the back of their mind this stupid stuff going on in the background, and that they would be better off without that stuff happening. And they can just use this. It's
Yep.
perfect. It's perfect for everybody. I mean, not today, obviously. It's still
Yeah, but it's
pre-release.
getting. I mean, it's
Yeah.
progressing very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah. No, people listening to this, no problem using this thing
Yep.
right now. It works great.
I've been using it. I think every day since it leaked,
Yep. Yeah,
and
me too.
just like it's working when you don't even think about it anymore, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, the first step for me, actually, that's the other thing that happened over the weekend. So, I obviously had Chrome on my taskbar, and so what I would find is from like a muscle memory thing, when I wanted to open a new window or something, I would go and click on Chrome, and so finally I was like, obviously, I have to get rid of, get Chrome off of the taskbar. I don't want to see Chrome anymore. I just want to see this thing. I reset my computer over the weekend, and I guess the timing of that doesn't matter, but at one point I did, and as part of that, this computer has that photo scan thing I'm doing, and there's still tens of gigabytes of stuff on here, and I don't want to lose that. So I backed that up to different locations for the upteenth time. And then in the process of resetting it, I was like, wait a minute, maybe I could try this. And I'll do the version of the reset where it keeps your documents, but just blows away all your apps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually do it that way. I usually do like a real clean kind of, full-blown reset situation. But in reinstalling my apps, I'm like, I don't have to install Chrome,
Mm-hmm.
and also for whatever it's worth, one of the big things for me over the past few years has been an increasing use of web apps. And so there was a period of time where I had 3 or 4 Chrome-based web apps pinned to my taskbar, and because of a number of things, the inbox fiasco with Google and some other things, I'm actually using like the native apps in Windows 10 for Mail and Calendar now, which I don't actually like, but it's one less thing for me to install and manage.
Sure.
I can use the store version of Twitter. It's basically the same. It is the same as the web app, whatever. And now I'm using Chrome. Now, granted, I have to install Chrome. It's not the one that comes in the OS, but it's like my taskbar is suddenly a lot more Microsoft centric,
Hmm.
than it had been for a long time. In fact, of the, I guess, 10-ish icons that I can see there, only one of them, which is for Adobe Photoshop, did not come from Microsoft in some way. And that's incredible, you know.
Yeah. Here's an analogy for the car folk out there.
Hmm.
There are two cars out there. One's called the Toyota 86, and then there's another one called the Subaru. I think it's BRZ. These are both 2019 models. But here's the deal: Toyota basically makes the whole thing. I think they get maybe a couple parts from Subaru. It might even be the engine, but I can't exactly remember. But Toyota builds the car, and it's like
Yeah.
every 10th one that comes down the line gets a Subaru badge and goes off to a Subaru dealership rather than the Toyota dealership.
Yeah.
If you want the car and you don't want it to have a Toyota badge, but you like what Subaru does, you go to the Subaru dealership and buy it. And you don't
Sure.
think that, hey, this is a Toyota. You think this is a Subaru. And this is the same thing. You're just going to the Microsoft site to get it.
Right.
You don't care that the engine's made by Chrome because you like the extra things that Subaru is tossing in.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yep.
I mean, obviously Microsoft is replacing a little more,
Yeah,
let's
they're
say,
a little bit more extensive, but yes.
but actually the beauty of it, your analogy rings true, because in use, it doesn't matter what Microsoft has or has not removed or what's different. It looks and feels and behaves the same as Chrome.
Yeah.
And again, you still get pushback from some people who just can't stand the notion of Google anything, but usage statistics prove that that's what people want.
Mhm.
65% of the desktop, 63% of mobile is browsing the web on Chrome. And so a version of that browser that's better, right? I mean, is better literally for everyone. It doesn't,
Yeah.
even if you're a Google guy. I sign into two different Google accounts, right? So I have my
Mhm.
Thra.com account, my normal Gmail account. Depending on the service I'm using, because I use like Google News and I use a RSS reader and whatever, I sign into different things with different Google accounts. It works fine. It works fine.
Yeah.
There is nothing. There's no downside to using this browser, like none.
Mhm.
It's amazing.
And it's stable. Like,
Yeah, I know it works great.
I'm using the dev, and it is, you would never know.
Oh, that's what I wanted to. Oh,
The
no,
only issue I have found, and this is extremely minor, is I use TweetDeck, but I break it out into its own little web app window, whatever they call that thing, where you just save it as an app so it opens Chromeless.
Right.
Is that does not show up in the more apps when you like click the little whatever button thing, and then you go down to apps to open it up from inside of Edge.
Really?
It doesn't show up unless I'm on the TweetDeck website. Then it shows up.
That's weird. Oh,
And
that's
then it
got to be
actually-
a mistake.
And then it actually opens the web app that I've saved to my PC.
Yeah, because one of the things I looked at, like when I was looking at the web app functionality, was how it handled, because there's two different things going on. There are actual web apps, like progressive web apps, that have a manifest and certain features like offline use and so forth, and it will actually give you like a little install button, like up in the address bar.
Yep.
I think later that might even be more pronounced, but today it's just a little thing. But you can also go to any web page and say, wherever it is, more tools, something, create a shortcut. It creates a shortcut in your desktop. And if you go to edge:// both of those things should show up in there. So real web apps like Twitter and Starbucks, and then any web page that you save as a shortcut should also appear there. And then you can right click on it and say, I want to open this thing as a window, not as like a browser tab. You can obviously pin it to your taskbar. Shows up in Start, right? It's a real native kind of experience. So I don't know why that doesn't work, but I'm going to guess that that's one of those things that will work.
I think it's just a bug.
Yeah.
So I'm not too caught up in it. It's a very minor thing, but everything else is working just as expected. So, you got anything else for today, Mr. Thurrat?
No, that is the most of it. So, no, I think I'm going to wind down the Edge shares until there are big changes, right? Because things are going to change. I think I've hit most of the high points. I made a list last week and I kind of ran through all of it, I should say. But yeah, I'll keep looking at that stuff. Like I said, I'm obsessed is maybe a strong word, but it's a big focus all of a sudden. And
It's the longest I've used a Microsoft browser consecutively in a very long time.
I don't. I seriously, since possibly 15 or more years ago. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's incredible. So, what about you? Anything going on with you?
Got some more fun things planned, I think, for Thratir later this week that I think some
Hmm.
people will enjoy. And yeah,
Nice
we'll talk about those little nuggets later.
tidbits.
Bye.